The massive alien ship appeared on a quiet Tuesday morning, silently sliding into Earth's orbit like a whale gliding through dark waters. On the bridge of the International Space Station, Captain James Walker stared at the vessel through the observation window, his coffee cup forgotten in his hand. The ship was beautiful in a strange way, all smooth curves and shimmering metal that seemed to change color as it caught the sunlight. "Sir," his communication officer called out, "they're broadcasting on all frequencies." The message that came through was clear and precise, delivered in perfect English. "Greetings, Earth. We are the Stellar Assembly, a coalition of advanced civilizations. We have been watching your development." Walker felt a chill run down his spine. How long had they been watching? The thought of alien eyes studying humanity's every move was unsettling. As Earth's highest-ranking space officer, he knew the next few minutes would change human history forever. The alien message continued. "Your species has reached a crucial development stage. You must be evaluated for potential membership in our assembly. Prepare to receive our representatives." Within hours, the world's leaders gathered in an emergency United Nations session. Walker stood at attention behind the Secretary General, his military training helping him keep a straight face as the alien representatives materialized in the center of the assembly hall. The aliens looked almost human, except for their silvery skin and eyes that seemed to hold galaxies within them. Their leader, who introduced himself as the first observer, spoke with a hint of superiority in his voice. "We have studied your warfare," the first observer announced, displaying holographic images of human conflicts in the air. "Your methods are primitive. You still rely on projectile weapons, launching metal with explosives." A few alien delegates actually laughed, the sound like tinkling crystal. Walker felt his jaw tighten. Yes, humans still used primitive bullets and missiles, but they had their reasons. Centuries of warfare had proven their reliability. Still, he held his tongue as the aliens continued their assessment. "Your accuracy rates are particularly amusing," another delegate added, showing statistics of human military operations. "Only 30% of your munitions hit their intended targets in actual combat conditions. The Assembly's weapon systems maintain 98% accuracy." The Secretary General cleared her throat. "We acknowledge that we have much to learn," she said diplomatically. "What are your terms?" The first observer's expression softened slightly. "Join the Assembly. Accept our guidance. We will help you advance beyond these primitive methods. Refuse and Earth will remain isolated from galactic society. You have one standard rotation of your planet to begin the evaluation process." As the meeting continued, Walker noticed something odd. Every time someone mentioned Earth's missile systems, the aliens shifted uncomfortably. Their hands would move subtly to their personal shield generators. It was a tiny detail, but Walker's years of combat experience had taught him to notice such things. Later that evening, in a secure underground facility, Walker met with Earth's military leaders. "There's something they're not telling us," he said, pulling up footage from the meeting. "Watch their reactions to discussions of our ballistic weapons. They're nervous." "Nervous," General Thompson scoffed. "They're centuries ahead of us. Their ships can cross galaxies." "Exactly," Walker replied, leaning forward. "So why would they care about our primitive weapons? Unless—" The room fell silent as the implication sank in. Walker turned to the window, looking up at the night sky where the alien ship hung like a new star. The Assembly had made it clear they thought little of humanity's military capabilities. But maybe, just maybe, that assumption would be their biggest mistake. "Begin gathering all our data on weapons performance," Walker ordered. "And get me Dr. Alice Reed from Weapons Research. Tell her it's urgent." He allowed himself a small smile. "I think humanity might have an ace up its sleeve, even if we don't know it yet." The first day of humanity's evaluation was ending, but Walker had a feeling this story was just beginning. Sometimes, he thought, being underestimated was the greatest advantage of all. The testing ground stretched across the Nevada desert like a giant's playground. Captain Walker stood at the observation post, watching as Earth's military forces prepared to demonstrate their capabilities to the stellar assembly. The morning sun cast long shadows across the sand, and the air already felt hot despite the early hour. "All units in position," crackled a voice through his earpiece, waiting for assembly observers. The alien representatives arrived in a flash of light, their silvery skin reflecting the desert sun. The first observer stepped forward, tablet-like device in hand. "You may begin your demonstration," he said, not bothering to hide the boredom in his voice. Walker nodded to the control tower. "Begin sequence 1." The ground rumbled as Earth's newest tank rolled into view. It was humanity's pride. The M220 Thunderbolt, equipped with both conventional and electromagnetic weapons. The tank commander's voice came through clear. "Target acquired. Firing main cannon." The tank's barrel roared, sending a depleted uranium round downrange at hypersonic speed. The shell struck its target, a reinforced bunker, dead center. Walker allowed himself a small smile. The aliens remained unimpressed. "Primitive chemical propulsion," one muttered, making notes. "Excessive heat signature, wasted energy." Next came the aircraft demonstration. F-35s and the new X-82 fighters screamed overhead, performing complex maneuvers before engaging drone targets with a mixture of missiles and energy weapons. 8 out of 10 targets were destroyed. 80% success rate, the first observer noted. "Our youngest pilots achieved 99% in basic training." He turned to Walker. "Tell me, Captain, why do you still rely on such outdated methods?" Walker kept his voice steady. "They've served us well. Like they serve you well in your last 3 regional conflicts." Another alien delegate pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's recent military history. "Your weapons miss more often than they hit. Your soldiers still die in combat. This is inefficient." The demonstrations continued throughout the day. Each time Earth showed a weapons system, the aliens found fault. Their energy weapons could hit targets from orbit with perfect accuracy. Their shields could stop anything. Their ships could outmaneuver anything Earth possessed. But Walker noticed something else. During the missile tests, the aliens' personal shields flickered briefly. When railgun rounds passed nearby, their instruments showed strange readings. They were analyzing everything, yes, but they seemed particularly interested in Earth's projectile weapons, even while mocking them. Dr. Alice Reed noticed it too. The weapons researcher pulled Walker aside during a break. "Did you see their shield harmonics?" she whispered, showing him readings on her tablet. "Every time we fire something physical, there's a power spike. They're working harder to defend against our primitive weapons than they want us to know." Walker studied the data. "Can you get more readings?" "Already on it. I've got sensors recording everything." The afternoon brought more demonstrations, more alien scoffs, and more subtle readings. Earth's laser weapons drew yawns. Their plasma cannons earned eye rolls. But their simple artillery pieces made the aliens shift uncomfortably, even as they criticized the ancient technology. At sunset, the first observer delivered his verdict. "Your species requires significant advancement before being considered for full assembly membership. We recommend completely replacing your Arctic ballistic weapons with proper energy-based systems. You have 6 months to show progress." After the aliens departed, Walker met with Earth's military council in an underground bunker. The room was tense with wounded pride and possibility. "Look at this," Dr. Reed said, projecting her findings. "Their shields are optimized for energy weapons. They barely register physical objects until impact. It's like they evolved past the need to defend against kinetic weapons." Walker leaned back, a plan forming in his mind. "Then maybe we shouldn't be so quick to evolve past them ourselves." He turned to the generals. "I have a proposal, but we'll need to keep it quiet. Let them think we're embracing their technology." Meanwhile, the generals leaned forward, interested. Sometimes, Walker thought, The best advantage was letting your opponent think they'd already won. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a secret facility known only to a handful of people, Dr. Alice Reed stared at her computer screen. The room around her was dark except for the blue glow of monitors. She had been analyzing the data from the assembly shield tests for 3 days straight, and what she found made her hands shake with excitement. "Captain Walker, you need to see this," she said into her phone. "Now." Walker arrived 20 minutes later, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Reed, noting the dark circles under her eyes. "What did you find?" She pulled up a 3D model of the alien shield technology. "Look at their defensive pattern. It's beautiful, really. Perfect against energy weapons. Lasers, plasma. Everything we thought was advanced." She tapped a key, and the model shifted. "But throw a simple rock at it." The shield simulation flickered and failed. "They're so focused on stopping energy attacks that physical objects barely register," Reed explained, excitement making her words tumble out faster. "It's like having the world's best umbrella against rain, but no protection against someone throwing water balloons." Walker set down his coffee. "How sure are you about this?" "I've run the simulation 1,000 times." She showed him more data. "Their shields are tuned to stop energy weapons because that's what everyone in the assembly uses. They probably haven't faced serious kinetic weapons in centuries. Maybe thousands of years." Walker smiled. "And we're the kings and queens of throwing rocks really, really well." Over the next week, Walker and Reed gathered a small team of Earth's best weapons designers. They worked in secret, converting an old missile silo into their research base. The assembly's representatives checked in regularly, pleased to see Earth apparently dismantling their primitive weapon systems. "Look at this," one of the engineers said during a late-night session. He showed them footage from World War I. The Germans learned that firing straight at British bombers didn't work well. So they calculated where the planes would be and filled that space with shells. "We could do something similar with the alien shields." "Better yet," another added, "we know exactly how their shields work now. We can design shells that look like misses, but actually hit exactly where we want them to." Reed nodded eagerly. "And if we add some simple guidance systems, nothing fancy enough to trigger their sensors, we could make our shots even more effective." The team worked around the clock, combining centuries-old ballistic principles with just enough modern technology to guide their weapons without detection. They called it Project Slingshot, after the ancient weapon that helped David defeat Goliath. 1 month into their work, they had their first test ready. At a hidden facility in the Australian outback, far from the assembly's usual observation posts, they set up a replica of an alien shield generator based on the data they gathered. "Test firing in 3, 2, 1. Reed counted down. The gun fired what looked like an ordinary shell. The alien shield flickered to life, ready to stop energy weapons. The shell appeared to go wide, exactly as planned. Then, at the last second, tiny thrusters activated. The shell curved slightly, hitting the shield at precisely the right angle and frequency. The shield shattered like glass. Walker watched the replay 12 times. "It's not just that we can beat their shields," he said slowly. "It's that they won't even see it coming. They'll think we're just bad shots until it's too late." Reed nodded. "Should we tell the world leaders?" "Not yet," Walker decided. "The assembly is watching us too closely. Let them think we're struggling to copy their technology. Meanwhile, we'll get every weapon factory on Earth working on these new shells, disguised as dismantling operations." He looked at the test footage one more time. Soon, very soon, the assembly would learn that mocking humanity's aim was their biggest mistake. But for now, they would wait, prepare, and let their enemies think they had already won. 3 months into Earth's modernization program, the first observer stood in the United Nations Assembly Hall, his silvery face showing clear disappointment. The holographic displays behind him showed Earth's military conversion progress, or lack thereof. "Your species moves too slowly," he announced. Only 30% of your weapons have been upgraded to assembly standards. This is insufficient. The word carried the weight of a threat. Captain Walker sat in the back of the hall, keeping his face carefully neutral. Inside, he was smiling. The assembly was counting the weapons Earth had publicly destroyed, not knowing that each destroyed missile launcher was being secretly rebuilt in underground facilities, enhanced with Project Slingshot technology. "We require more time," the Secretary General said, her voice apologetic. "Converting our entire military infrastructure is a massive undertaking." The first observer's eyes narrowed. "You have been given sufficient time." The Assembly's patience grows thin. "We are hereby issuing an ultimatum. Complete your weapons conversion within 30 days, or Earth will be classified as a restricted civilization." After the aliens departed, Walker met with Dr. Reed in their underground facility. The space had changed over the months, now filled with prototype weapons and testing equipment. On one wall, a counter showed their true progress. 85% of Earth's military forces secretly upgraded with slingshot technology. "They're getting suspicious," Reed said, checking the latest sensor data from their spy satellites. "Assembly ships have been scanning our major military bases more frequently." Walker nodded. "Good thing we're not keeping anything important there anymore." He walked to a massive screen showing a map of Earth, dotted with hidden production facilities. "How's the latest batch?" Reed pulled up test footage. "Even better than we hoped. The new shells look completely primitive on their scans, but they're carrying our most advanced guidance systems. We've achieved a 95% penetration rate against their shield designs." A junior officer rushed in, holding a tablet. "Sir, we're picking up increased assembly activity in the outer solar system. More ships arriving daily." Walker studied the data. The assembly was gathering a large fleet, probably planning to make a show of force when their ultimatum expired. They expected to find Earth helpless, stripped of its effective weapons, and failing to properly upgrade to energy-based systems. "Let them come," Walker said quietly. "Every ship they bring is another ship that doesn't know our true capabilities." The next few weeks were a careful dance of deception. Earth made a show of rushing to convert their weapons, making obvious mistakes and failing quality tests. The assembly observers watched with growing frustration as humanity appeared to bumble through their modernization efforts. Meanwhile, in secret facilities around the world, soldiers trained with the new slingshot weapons. They practiced missing their targets in just the right way, making their attacks look like failed attempts to use assembly-style weapons, while actually positioning their shots perfectly. "It's ironic," Reed said one evening, watching the latest round of tests. "They think we're terrible at copying their technology, but we're actually doing something they never considered possible, making our old technology better than their new stuff." Walker agreed. "The best trick isn't hiding your strength. It's making your strength look like weakness." 29 days into the ultimatum, Earth's leaders gathered for one final briefing. The assembly fleet had grown to over 100 ships, all positioning themselves for what they probably thought would be a simple show of force against an uncooperative primitive world. "Are we ready?" the Secretary General asked. Walker looked at his tablet, showing the real numbers. 98% of Earth's forces were now equipped with slingshot weapons. Their soldiers were trained. Their supplies were hidden. Everything was in place. "We're ready," he confirmed. "But let's hope we don't have to prove it too soon. The longer they underestimate us, the better our advantage becomes." The Secretary General nodded gravely. "Then we'll continue to play our part. Tomorrow, we'll ask for more time, act confused, play the part of the struggling primitive species." She smiled slightly. "Let them think they have all the power. Pride comes before a fall, after all." The emergency alert woke Walker at 3 a.m. Red lights flashed across his room as he grabbed his phone. The assembly's entire fleet had suddenly broken orbit, racing toward the outer solar system. "Get me Dr. Reed," he ordered, rushing to get dressed, "and connect me to the command center." By the time he reached the underground facility, the situation had become clear. And it wasn't about Earth at all. The assembly was under attack. The main screen showed grainy footage from deep space telescopes. Strange ships, darker than the void between stars, were emerging from nowhere to strike assembly worlds. Their designs were like nothing humanity had ever seen, all sharp angles and crystalline surfaces that seemed to drink in light. "They're calling themselves the Void Hunters," Reed reported, her face pale in the screen's glow. "They've hit 12 assembly worlds already. The assembly's weapons aren't working against them." Walker watched as another feed showed an assembly defense fleet engaging the invaders. The assembly's energy weapons, so precise and powerful, splashed harmlessly against the dark ship's shields. Within minutes, 3 assembly cruisers were reduced to drifting wreckage. "Their shields," Reed whispered. "They're even more specialized against energy weapons than the assemblies. They've evolved to be completely immune." The Secretary General's face appeared on a secondary screen. "The Assembly has requested an emergency meeting. Captain Walker, Dr. Reed, you need to be there." They arrived at the UN building just as the first observer materialized in the council chamber. Gone was his usual arrogance. His silvery skin had a grayish tinge, and his hands trembled slightly. "The situation is grave," he announced without preamble. "The Void Hunters have developed perfect defenses against our weapons. They're systematically destroying our outer colonies. Our fleets are—" He paused, as if the words pained him. "We are losing." The room erupted in questions. Walker stayed quiet, watching. The first observer's next words silenced everyone. "We require assistance, even from—" He seemed to struggle with the admission. "Less advanced civilizations." Walker exchanged a look with Reed. This was not how they had planned to reveal Earth's true capabilities, but sometimes opportunity wore a crisis mask. "What exactly are you asking?" the Secretary General inquired carefully. "Your ships, your weapons. Primitive as they are, they might provide a distraction while we develop new energy weapon frequencies." Walker stepped forward. "And if we could do more than distract them?" The first observer's galaxy-filled eyes narrowed. "Your weapons can barely hit their targets. What more could you do?" Reed activated a hologram of her own, showing the test results from Project Slingshot. "We've been busy these past months, but not quite the way you think." She explained their discoveries about shield harmonics, their development of enhanced kinetic weapons, and their true progress. With each revelation, the first observer's expression shifted from dismissal to disbelief to desperate hope. "You knew our shield's weaknesses," he said finally. "All this time." "We did," Walker confirmed. "And we think the Void Hunters have the same weakness. Their shields might be even more specialized against energy weapons than yours, which means they'd be even more vulnerable to physical attacks," the first observer finished. He stood straighter, some of his old confidence returning. "Perhaps we underestimated your species." "You did," Walker agreed. "But right now, that's actually good news, because it means the Void Hunters are probably underestimating us too." He turned to the Secretary General, who nodded. Around the world, hidden bunkers began opening. Missile silos, long thought empty, revealed their new contents. Submarines surfaced in remote locations, their tubes loaded not with obsolete weapons, but with humanity's secret defense. "Earth will help," Walker announced. "But we'll do it our way." The first observer bowed his head slightly, the first show of respect he'd ever given to a human. "We accept your terms. Please, teach us how to throw rocks again." The bridge of the Earth defense ship Thunderchild hummed with tension as Captain Walker watched the tactical display. Around him, 50 of humanity's best ships moved into formation. They looked plain compared to the sleek assembly vessels, blocky, practical, and bristling with what appeared to be ordinary gun barrels. "Void Hunter fleet detected," his tactical officer announced. 15 ships approaching the colony on Titan. Assembly defense fleet is already engaged and losing. Through the main viewport, Walker could see the flashes of energy weapons lighting up Saturn's largest moon. The assembly ships fired brilliant beams of light that splashed harmlessly against the Void Hunters' black hulls. One by one, the assembly ships were going dark. "They still think we're here as a distraction," Dr. Reed said from her station, where she monitored the slingshot weapons. "The assembly commander is asking us to draw their fire while they regroup." Walker allowed himself a small smile. "Let's show them what a real distraction looks like. All ships, begin attack pattern, David." The Earth fleet split into 5 groups, appearing to move clumsily compared to the graceful assembly ships. The Void Hunters barely seemed to notice them, focusing their attention on the remaining assembly vessels. "They're not even raising shields against us," Reed reported, excitement in her voice. "Their scans show us as primitive projectile weapons only. No energy signatures they consider threatening." Walker keyed his fleet-wide comm. "All ships, load slingshot rounds. Remember your training. Make your shots look sloppy. Fire on my mark." The Void Hunters finally seemed to notice the Earth ships. Their dark vessels turned slightly, presenting their supposedly invulnerable shields with almost casual arrogance. "They're broadcasting," communications reported. "Audio only." A deep, artificial-sounding voice filled the bridge. "Your primitive weapons are useless. Retreat now, and we may spare your world for last." Walker pressed his transmit button. "This is Captain Walker of Earth. We appreciate your offer, but we'll take our chances." He switched to fleet channels. "All ships, execute firing solution Alpha." "Missed them." The Thunderchild shuddered as her main guns fired. Across the fleet, hundreds of shells launched into space. To the Void Hunter sensors, they would look like crude projectiles, most of them on trajectories that would miss completely. "Their shields aren't even at full power," Reed reported with satisfaction. "They think we're just bad shots." The shells appeared to go wide, sailing past the Void Hunter ships. The enemy didn't even bother to evade. Then, at precisely the right moment, thousands of tiny thrusters activated, every shell that looked like a miss curved in perfect synchronization. The first indication the Void Hunters had of their mistake was when their supposedly perfect shields shattered like cheap glass. The shells struck with devastating accuracy, guided by months of careful testing and preparation. 3 Void Hunter ships exploded immediately. 4 more spun out of control, their hulls breached in dozens of places. The remainder tried to reorient their shields, but Earth's ships were already firing their second volley. Message from the assembly flagship. Communications called out. They're asking how we did that." Walker watched as the remaining Void Hunters began to retreat. "Tell them we didn't miss. We never miss. We just make it look that way." The assembly fleet regrouped around the Earth ships. On the main screen, the first observer's face showed a mixture of shock and respect. "Your weapons," he said. "They were never primitive at all, were they?" "Oh, they were," Walker replied. "We just made them better by staying true to what we knew worked. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. They just need a little modern improvement." Reed's console beeped. "Sir, we're tracking Void Hunter fleets regrouping near Uranus. At least 30 ships." Walker nodded. "Signal all Earth production facilities. Tell them to start full production of slingshot shells." He looked at the assembly representatives on his screen. "And if you want, we can teach your weapons engineers a thing or two about the art of throwing rocks." 1 month after the Battle of Titan, Captain Walker stood in the assembly's grand hall on their capital world. The massive chamber, with its crystal walls and floating platforms, was packed with representatives from 100 alien civilizations. They had all come to witness something unprecedented: the admission of a primitive species to the assembly's High Council. Through the hall's transparent dome, Walker could see Earth ships flying in formation with assembly vessels. Their blocky shapes stood out among the sleek alien craft, but no one mocked their appearance anymore. Not since those simple-looking ships had turned the tide against the Void Hunters. "The combined Earth assembly fleet has driven the Void Hunters from our space," the first observer announced to the gathered species. "Thanks to humanity's unique approach to warfare, We have achieved what our energy weapons could not. Dr. Reed, standing beside Walker, smiled as holographic displays showed their victories. The images told a story that would have seemed impossible just months ago. Earth's primitive weapons breaking through supposedly invincible shields, assembly ships now carrying their own kinetic weapons, and the Void Hunters retreating from every battle. We were wrong, the first observer continued, his voice carrying genuine humility. We assumed that advanced technology meant abandoning older methods. We forgot that true advancement means building upon your foundations, not destroying them. The Assembly's Supreme Council rose from their seats. The first observer turned to Walker and Reed. Step forward, representatives of Earth. As they walked to the center of the hall, Walker remembered all the times these same aliens had mocked humanity's weapons. Now they waited eagerly for Earth's engineers to teach them how to combine physical and energy-based weapons. Your species has proven that there is wisdom in maintaining diverse approaches to problems, the first observer declared. You kept your traditional weapons not out of stubbornness, but out of wisdom. When you appeared to struggle with our technology, you were actually creating something better. Reed stepped up to the podium when invited to speak. We never wanted to deceive you, she said clearly. But when we realized our primitive weapons might be effective, we knew we had to keep that advantage secret. The universe is vast and full of surprises. Sometimes the best defense is the one your enemy doesn't expect. The Supreme Council presented Earth with a crystal sphere, the symbol of full assembly membership. But unlike the usual blue crystal given to new members, Earth's was unique. It was deep red, marked with symbols representing both energy and kinetic weapons. To remind us all, the first observer explained, that progress doesn't always mean leaving the past behind. Later, at the celebration, Walker watched assembly engineers excitedly discussing projectile weapon designs with Earth's military experts. Some were already testing hybrid weapons that combine the accuracy of energy targeting with the shield-breaking power of physical projectiles. They're like children rediscovering an old toy, Reed observed, sipping a drink that sparkled with impossible colors. It's amazing how quickly they adapted once they got over their pride. Walker nodded. That's humanity's real gift to them. Not just the weapons, but the reminder that sometimes the old ways are still valuable. An alert chimed softly. The long-range sensors had detected Void Hunter ships regrouping at the edge of known space. But this time, no one was afraid. The combined Earth Assembly fleet was ready, armed with weapons that represented the best of both civilizations. You know what the best part is? Reed asked, watching the alert scroll past. They still think they know everything about us. They haven't figured out half of what we can do with these hybrid weapons yet. Walker smiled, remembering how it all started, with aliens mocking humanity's aim. Let them think that, he said. After all, looking harmless until it's too late, he raised his glass in a toast. That's the greatest advantage of all. Around them, the celebration continued, a testament to how far they'd come. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not by abandoning their past, but by proving that sometimes the best way forward is to remember where you came from.